terrible. So it's like a Zoom before you start so awkward. Hey, how are you? Oh, well, good. Old school. Meeting again. I can barely hear. What did you say? Oh, yeah. 6 feet under, right? I forgot my concrete boots. For sure. I'm not sure the pond is actually deep enough. I would still be waving. Good open. Okay, I guess we're maskless, right? Yeah. That's okay. Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I was gonna try to get some kind of nice plant and make this look even more like was it Joe Rogan or somebody who's got that, but I just couldn't pull that off today. Well, I pulled these from upstairs. I'm out to do all my dogs there. And I didn't realize how heavy these chairs are. They're like really. I went to pick one up and I just pulled through. And I'm like, oh no! So I had to get the carpet, drag the chair because I started dragging it, and I was making lines in the floor. I'm like, this is going from bad to worse. Like I just got to figure this out. It did. And then I had chairs in the middle of the hall in front of the elevator. Like this is all going. What are we doing here? Yeah. That's what I thought about. You know, maybe grab them, but I grabbed them a few times. Stuff from my car to my office. Sir, hey. Oh. What time is it? Do y'all know?
10:59.
Thank you. Because my phone is being used for live streaming. And of course, Dr. Howie doesn't have a phone that probably has time on it. You don't have a phone, period, do you? I don't have a phone. I didn't think so. I don't have a cell phone. I'm too old for that shit. I mean, come on. My fingers are too big. It doesn't. Never mind. I got better things to do with time left. So I guess when we get to like 10:50 or 11:50, you can just kind of give me an indication. Because that's the thing. I wasn't factoring in not having my device. Careful, Paul.
Right down over here.
Yeah, you can come on down here, yeah. We don't want any recreations of the Gerald Ford kind of moment.
All right, Johnny, how you doing? Man,
I'm still not dead yet. It looks like you're in the same shape.
I can't hardly hear it.
I said, I'm still not dead yet.
No, I
Neither
noticed
are
that.
you.
I've not recognized that real quick.
After all these zombie zombies around, I swear.
Looking good.
Okay, well, I think it's 11 o'clock, so we'll get started. And kind of like 2020, 2021 has been for the classroom. We have some people on Zoom, some people watching it on Facebook, and then, of course, us sharing mutual space. This whole year, really since March, or even before that, I think, Convocation has been on Zoom, but sometimes you make exceptions for things. And John Howie is something that I feel like we cannot reproduce via Zoom. It's a lived experience. So we have to be in the space. And for all of you, of course, you know Doc and all of his many years, different ways that he's impacted your life, from classroom, but really the extra classroom stuff that he has poured in. I know that some of you are kind of disciples or been mentored by Dr. Howie. And what we're going to do today is just really a conversation. Just a conversation with some questions that we raised over Dr. Howie's life. And we thought that John would sit down and we are recording this. We'll put it online. But but really we thought it would just be a real space to ask some questions and explore, but also to frame it around health journeys and what that's like too. So we've got about 10 questions, but I suspect we won't get to all of those. We'll just kind of go with what we can. But anyways, so I can say this, Professor Emeritus of Psychology, Dr. John Halley, and you taught here how many years?
30.
30 years.
This is my 30th year.
30th year, okay. So we'll get started. And I know that your life in many ways has been dedicated to justice. Right? You've been we would call you now a justice warrior, right? And you've been helping people, especially expand their horizons. You really tried to open students' eyes to a lot of things. So who modeled this for you? Who gave you that fire to be an activist?
Ancestral karma. I mean, you find out later on in life that a lot of the stuff that you're doing is a repetition of stuff that your ancestors did in a different modality and stuff. And so, in some ways, it was my parents. My father was known as the inn doctor in town down in Alabama. So, you go out in Alabama, there's a little social injustice in the 50s and 60s. Now, we didn't get there till 59 or something, but it says on the license plate, Heart of Dixie, so you can see the issues that we're going to have. I think 2% of the people voted for the liberal candidate at one point. Of course, the rest of them were voting for George Wallace. George Wallace was in power for like 12 years or something like that, until somebody shot him and missed. Man, I swear, you get the assassins missing in all the wrong places. So my father did that. He integrated, had the first integrated first integrated waiting room in his pediatrician's office. So that was an issue there. And it was dangerous to do that back then. The KKK started calling us up and saying, well, we're gonna, kidnap your kids, and we're gonna firebomb we're gonna burn a cross up on your house. But back then, there was no cell phone, so, as long as they're on the phone, they're not burning the cross, right? And Dad said when they were going to kidnap the kids, well, could you take John? He really, I said, well, see him call. I got extra. Well, he didn't quite say that. That's the way I tell the story. But it was dangerous, kind of thing, but it was important to do. And you can see that injustice. So when it's kind of in your face. When Tace and I talked, and Tace was in South Africa with that apartheid stuff. And you can see, oh yeah, there's that tension. But you also know what side social justice is on. You're not like clueless about, oh yeah, no, this is the right side of things. And this is where the arc of justice bends. This is where it's bending towards. And then to have it come back up again, all over again in 2016 and 17, I mean, it's like, where the hell did this come from? This is not 1968. Or did George Wallace actually win in 1968? Which is what it felt like, right? So there's certain things that there's certain fundamental questions that have to be answered. And they don't change over time very much. I wish they did, but the same issues seem to keep cropping up over and over and over again. And then my Uncle John, he was a philosophy professor. Well, he tried to be a preacher in South Carolina. That didn't work out so good in the 1950s. Especially, I actually went to a KKK rally. He and my aunt, and they were just taking notes and stuff. And then those people started, hey, what are you doing here? Kind of thing. And anyway, they left. But so you had to have a certain amount of bravery, and at the same time, you kind of had to joke about it. I mean, you have to find the comical little thing in it, okay? When we were at that rally in 2017, we had the people from Charlottesville here. They came here first to practice. And fortunately, we had the proper police response, which is a whole lot of people, separate the two sides, and it's going to be okay. Plus, there's 40 snipers on the roof, so we heard. I don't know whether there were 40 snipers there or not. As far as everybody was concerned, and it's an open carry state, so it's probably better that they think the snipers are on the roof, whether they're there or not. But the police here did a really good response. And you're calm and you don't sort of incite riots like they did in 1968 at the convention there.
So what I hear is your parents, right, your dad who had an integrated waiting room as a dog, your uncle who was this philosophy professor, you really come from a line of activists that motivated and when your dad is integrating his waiting room, about how old were you when that was happening?
Oh, I was like 8, 9 years old. It'd be 10. It was 1962.
Okay.
In Alabama and stuff. And so they were standing up for that stuff. And it actually comes out of the church tradition. The church was a really powerful force with the initial civil rights stuff. The black churches, but the white churches as well. On occasion, we kind of left the Nun and Methodist church when they didn't allow some black people into it back in the 60s. And so my parents walked out and stuff. They started a fellowship that went on for years and years and years, and they're still best friends and stuff. Of about 40 or 50 people that would meet at people's houses and stuff. And they had a minister and stuff like that.
So the parents, the courage of your parents and modeling that. Here you are at 10, very impressionable, and you see that they're willing to literally kind of risk their lives.
So you also see how stupid you are, because I was like, at 10, I was like, yeah, we could have a gang of kids, and we could all wear Confederate, hats and have Confederate flags. And my mom said, no, we're on the other side of it. You gotta realize your social context. Okay? And that was the other thing I was talking about. There's a social context in which you grow up. And where those issues are, you start opening your eyes to those, you have to own up to them. And you don't have choices. And this goes back to early in the history of Kentucky and stuff, and the history of politics. The progressive Democrats were back in the 40s and 50s. You had some really progressive people. There's an undercurrent of that lasted from FDR and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, you have to have this pocket of progressive people, and I know that's one of the roles that you have played over these last 30 years here at UPike or Pikeville College, as being a pocket, right? Kind of a refuge for students who are interested in certain things. And I know one of the topics you've been really passionate about is modeling, love for the environment, taking care of Mother Earth. That's been a really important passion. The river, Pikeville River, how much you kind of thought about that, cared for that. So I wonder, could you share with us some of that passion? Why is being in nature so important to you, and why do you think it's so important to other people?
It heals. You get out in nature and it heals. The nice thing about Appalachian, one of the other questions you're asking about, why have I stayed in Pikeville for so long? Because the nature here is great. You've got beautiful natural stuff. And the human nature here is also good. Because you get all these diamonds in the rough around here. And that's the sort of students you mentor, is you've got these, and they come from the head of Hollis and stuff. Mud Creek and everything. So, Marble, there's certain places in our area that don't have the best of reputations. And if you don't know anybody in that holler, maybe you shouldn't go there. But if you know somebody there, you're safe. You're good. Okay? And the people of Appalachia have a real sense of nature. And that's one of the things that in the classes, you sit there and you talk about going to nature, and they've got a home place that they used to go to. And so they have a real, it's in their bones to have a sense of what nature means and that kind of sense. Now, it can be overwhelmed by full companies and stuff like that. But you get that kind of push. And I think that's endemic and implicit in every human being that there is. They always got that kind of thing. And so that ecological awareness, and at the first what is it called? Earth Day, right? Yeah. Well, everybody was supposed to go to school, not in a car, right?
Okay.
So we had a horse. This big black horse we had. Anyway, let me see if I can tell this story. Anyway, so we had this horse. So me and my friend Anthony, we would ride the horse. So we were trading off. But my friend Anthony's like 6'3", okay? And really dark, okay? He was on the football team and stuff too. But anyway, he happened to be on the horse when we got to school. I think he kind of planned it that way or something. And so Deborah Dale comes running out. She's just blonde and stuff. She said, can I ride? Can I ride? So we hoist her up there and she rides on by. And the principal, right, he saw them riding by. And what are you going to do with the horse when you're in school?
Hadn't thought that through.
You see, it's got an inner courtyard. You know, remember those things that have an inner courtyard like that? And so we had an inner courtyard. And just getting him, we got him across the linoleum into the courtyard, and there was one tree there to tie him to. So we had him there, right? It was done. But you know, the principal, well, the boy who owns the horse in the inner courtyard, please come to the principal's office. And I was like, oh, man, this is not going to be good. And Anthony looks at me and goes, hey, it's not my horse. I'm like going down to the principal's office. And so he's going, well, I'm going to call your daddy. I said, 533-7258. He said, what's that? That's the telephone. 533-7258. So he calls him. I said, I'm going to call him. Really? I said, go ahead. And he comes down there, and my dad is thinking, and we hadn't talked about this, right? But Dad was like, I got 7 more kids coming here afterwards. We need to get rid of this guy. So me and Dad, with unspoken kind of things, started debating, trying to get him to, you know, if we could just get him to hit Dad, man, we could get fired, right? And we got him. And he was called Turkey Neck because he had this neck that would just turn around. He was, get out of my office. I never want to see you here again. So he just kicked us both out. And he never did it. Next year, when my sister burned the Confederate flag in the smoking court, they didn't even go over there.
So I have this image of, you know, integrated waiting rooms, you ride a horse, your sister burns the Confederate flag. I sense that in your area, the Howies were an eccentric, known family.
Oh, yeah. We're still well known as being that. So
Okay.
it didn't change over time. My dad was, he was supposed to be dead about 10 years before he died. I'm going to try to follow in his footsteps there, okay? But anyway, he was supposed to be gone, but they went back to Huntsville, Alabama, because they were living down in Galveston, Texas. He was teaching them. That's the other part of the ancestral karma. You can call it genetic heritage, but ancestral karma is a nice way to put it, because you can see the continuity of how things go down. So on the Mitchell side, one of the Mitchells started Friends World College up in New York. It's called Global University or something now. But it's the Catholic, it's the Quaker. There's a connection to the Quaker that we have somewhere underneath the surface. I didn't know that. And I became a draft dodger without even knowing that. So, I mean, back to Vietnam kind of stuff. And that, again, was another one of those things that after the fact, you can go, yeah, no, that was probably not a good engagement that we were doing.
Well, it seems like you have this path of where you do these things, and then reflecting back on them, you see all these connections, right? Connections that go way back.
Yes.
So one of the things that you've been so famous for is this helping students interpret dreams, making those like larger connections. Your classes still, I mean, if you would, teach it today, the class would be filled with the Howie's Dream class, right? I really thought for a while that was the actual technical name of the class, Howie's Dream class. Turns out it was something else. But as you have taught about dreams, right, and people have wanted to fill the room trying to figure it out, what should people know about dreams and how to make those connections for themselves?
Well, I call the course Dreams into Consciousness. I've been teaching it for actually 20, this is 30 years now. Anyway, I taught it in the first spring semester, 1992, back there. Because that was a great thing about Pipeline College. They would let you do anything you wanted to, as long as you did it pretty well. And nobody could, people complain. So, but anyway, they would usually let you do whatever you wanted, and they recognized that you had the confidence to do what you were doing. And so I got to teach, I got away with teaching all sorts of stuff that I made up. I made up this eco-psychology stuff 10 years ago. And that, I didn't make it up, but I found this stuff. I'm really lucky to find books. They jump off of shelves and hit me. No, but their books will just kind of appear when you really need that. And that has consistently happened. That's not me doing it, okay? And that's one of the things that in dreams, you have to get over the ego consciousness. Ego consciousness in dreams is stupid, okay? That's why they always seem strange to you and bizarre, because you don't understand the dream world. What I get people to do is go back into the dream space, okay? And I'm not able to do this myself, so I feel like Moses who never got to the promised land.
You can see it, but you can't get
I
it.
can't get there. No, I'm good to get people there. And so one of the things I use is dream reentry. And then I found out that the shamanism worked with that as well, because the shamans use drum beats and stuff. So my sense of rhythm is not very good, even though I do a drumming circle, but I do a tape thing of it because it's just a repetitive beat. And it does seem 8 or 9 people out of 10 can go back into their dream with the shamanic drumming, okay? Because that helps them get into that space. Some people, they're just distracted by it, they don't hear it. So I was conjoining those two things in terms of the dreams and in terms of the shamanism stuff, which is universal among humans. I mean, evolutionarily speaking, everybody went through the shaman phase and the hunter-gatherers. That's always been there. And it's that deep in people's soul that they pick up on it. They go, oh, that makes sense. Because in the shamanic journeys, I have people go down and find what you call your totem animal or your guardian animal, stuff like that. And that I've always, and again, something I haven't been able to teach. And I don't know why that is. Although a friend of mine, Daniel, once said that, oh yeah, John, the reason you can't go there is you're already there, which I thought was, it's probably not true, but go with it. So the dream class is always surprising to me. And that's the reason I hate those 8-week classes. It takes me 8 weeks to get people to the point where they go, oh, I see what he's talking about. I don't think it gels until about 8 weeks in. And then you're like, oh, they catch on. They suddenly realize what it is you're talking about. And then you can go with it. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen according to a COVID schedule.
Well, it sounds like in many ways, people who are interested in exploring their dreams, they really need a guide or they need like a community to do that.
The community helps a lot. And I've used this as a trick several times, okay? Because I'll invite students who were in a class before to come back to class. And then they don't think I'm quite as crazy. They think, well, he may be crazy, but he made somebody else be crazy in the same kind of way. So that's a good thing, right? Because they really have a sense of, oh, that can be done. And once they see that it can be done, I mean, people accuse me of hypnosis and stuff like that. I don't know how to do hypnosis, okay? But they go under to that place, and that's what I wanted to say. The dream world is really a place that you can re-access in a conscious mind. You can do it also from the dream space, and it's called lucid dreaming, where you're awake within the dream. So you're in this paradoxical space, both the dream world and not the dream world. And so when we go back into the dream in class, and I guide them down into the dream, then weird things start happening, okay? Because people will say, oh yeah, I see something else behind you in that dream. Some of them get into that space so much that they can see into the space that they're in. And they turn around, oh yeah, that thing is there. So you get, anyway, those are synchronicity kind of things, meaningful coincidences that happen.
Well, that's like those are the moments when you, as a teacher, can really help students turn that light on, right? You add some kind of clarity and they get it. And I think one of the interesting things about your teaching, the iconic teaching you've done here over these years, and not just here, I mean, I think that you are a teacher, so wherever you are, you will be teaching, right? Not just in a formal classroom, but you're teaching.
On my deathbed.
Right, I mean, but for you also, there has been this sense that when your name is mentioned, you have these group of students who will, I mean, want to move heaven and earth to be around you. You've been able to build that rapport, that energy, that,
No, I didn't do that. That happened.
okay,
No, and, no, it's very important because this is what happens in dreams too. Because if you still, in an egocentric point of view, and that little eye that you have, that doesn't get you places. And you have another question about when I travel and stuff.
Yeah.
What lessons do you get from traveling? Traveling, you get an itinerary, you have some general notion of where you're going and stuff, but forget about it if it doesn't work out. I mean, it didn't work out, and you get over it. We went to the Galapagos, or tried to go to the Galapagos. We had 4 different tickets to go to the Galapagos Islands, and then you had to have a special test, right? And we got the quickie test, and I got a speeding ticket that we still hadn't got fixed. Honey, you're supposed to fix that ticket. Anyway, I was going 70 past, was that Biscuit World or something? Because we had to be down to Atlanta at 5 o'clock that evening when the plane left. I mean, the plane was leaving at 5. And so we got there at 8 o'clock in the morning at this place, and we thought, oh no, but there's this long list of people who got there before us. So we weren't going to get there until 9 or 10 or 11 or something to get the test. And we got the quickie test. We got it. Emma can drive. She can drive 6 hours to Atlanta. That's good. Anyway, we need to delete that.
yeah, we'll just say that you were able to get to Atlanta, you were able to try to go to Galapagos, and things don't work out.
No. Yeah, well, that one didn't work out at all because we were 15 minutes late or something, so we didn't get on that flight. So then the next time we got on, but see, you had to have your test 4 days, within 4 days before you got to Quito, Ecuador. But to get to Quito, Ecuador, you got to go to Atlanta, then you got to go to Quito, right? So it's going to take a whole day to do that. Plus, in the long run, it takes 4 days to get the results from. That doesn't come back in, So you can't get down there. But we had the quickie one. So we got to the airport in Quito, Ecuador. And dadgum if we couldn't go to Galapagos because we had the wrong test. We had the quickie one instead of the longer one, the PCR test instead of, we had the wrong test. So we were all upset.
So but it sounds like you really had to be very flexible.
Yeah, Emma said, well, I want a massage while the boys go riding horses on volcanoes. Can you do that? And there was this lady in the airport who helped us out. And that's the thing. Things happen that help you. You have to be aware of it, especially when you're traveling. And those things will appear. And that's what I mean by synchronicity or meaningful coincidences. They happen when you travel a lot. And that's one of the things I learned from traveling. You have to expect that, but you have to expect that on your journey through life too. What needs to happen is going to happen. Now, it's not necessarily going to happen really easily. You're going to have to find rabbit holes. And you're going to have to, Emma found that rabbit hole for us to go to this wonderful 250-year-old hacienda with, just don't mention Inca. Okay, I kept talking about Peruvian, but 600 years ago, the Inca came in and massacred 40,000 people, turned this lake red. So they're still ticked off. You don't want to mention it, okay? Ecuador was the only country in South America that would let us in, that would let Americans in, because they use American money and they needed more Americans to come in and support their money, because it's the only country that also just has American money.
Well, yes, and I think that one of the things that you're highlighting about travel is this idea of flexibility, the people that you meet on the journey, but also you have to push and you have to wrestle, and you have to be creative, you have to be interested. I think one of the things that I so deeply appreciate about you is just how interested and curious you are. And I wonder, as an educator, as a teacher who is very curious, education is changing. Feels like it's being very standardized, and the kind of organic things that you do maybe are becoming more or less and less. But if you were to talk to educators today or students, what would you say is so important or most important to your philosophy of teaching?
I didn't really care whether they wanted to go into psychology or not. Okay, because what they have to do is find their own passion. And that has ranged anywhere from being a law student to being med student, to be an osteopathic, to be all those different things, to go on. That's what you have to do. You have to find your passion. That's what those 4 years here are about. I'm not sure that, I was talking to somebody the other day. I think girls should probably not go to college until they're 22 and guys until they're 25 or 26. If the guy's ready. I mean, that may not be ready yet, but but it is what it is. 18 to 22 is what you sort of have. But what they need to find is what their true passion that they really are curious about and can go and do without actually having to work. Because if you find your passion and what you want to do, then you don't have, well, you got a job. It's doing what you want to do. Mm-hmm. So, and that's what teaching has been. Excuse me. The allergy seasons are back, right?
Well, and what I hear is, in your story, not only are you curious, but there's really this loss of ego, there's this embrace of the organic, and really there's an embrace of allowing a student to be on whatever journey it is, right?
Yeah.
Just like in their dreams, like wherever they go, and wherever you travel, and who you meet is really who you're supposed to meet. But then I have a question about that, because life has become really interrupted for you. And if we're going to use the metaphor of travel, mm-hmm. Life has been very interrupted. Cancer has come into your world.
Life interrupted.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that has taken so many people, right? When we found out that you got sick, there was just a collective like, oh no, right? So I wonder.
Well, no, I would have gotten sick with cancer earlier if I'd known how many friends I had. People actually fight me. I was like, oh, I thought you were. Anyway, it was. I don't know that. Seriously, I was surprised. I was really surprised at the number of people who really felt good about it. I didn't think I was overly paranoid, but I guess I had been. And I mean, even the administration likes me. Ever since Paul Patton came here, I don't know what got him. He put a bug in their ear or something. So anyhow, somebody, one of the persons here said that something about his son was taking my class, and he really loved my class and stuff. And I said, well, yeah. So yeah. And what his father had said was, well, John, the students have always been a good teacher. It just takes the administration a little bit longer to catch up. Unfortunately, no offense, but there's administration and teachers are traditional enemies. Right. But good administrators recognize that some of their best teachers are the ones that look like they're kind of on the edge.
There's a fine line between the edge and over the edge.
Yeah. No, there is a fine line. And I don't know.
But your teaching got disrupted with your health journey.
Yeah.
And I wonder, and I don't know how to frame this question, but I guess what kept coming to my mind was, what has cancer taught you, or what are you learning in this journey?
I'm glad I took philosophy as an undergraduate. I was a philosophy major. And that gives you a sort of a sense of, I don't know, it gives you a little bit more familiarity with mortality and those kind of issues and the meaning of life and all that stuff. And somehow I've been actually surprised at how well death is approaching me. I don't know how you want to put it. There's some kind of sense of how it is. And actually, my wife and I have both been surprised. We've gotten along really well the last 3 years. In some ways, better than we have before. And she's been much better at taking care of sick people than I thought she could ever be. Usually 3 days, and you got to get up or die. But she hasn't been like that at all. No, she's been really good. And she's been pleased that I haven't been. Well, she has
I think so.
She has people who support. She has a group of people who were married to people with cancer. She said, I'm one of the best people with cancer.
Yeah, I've heard some people in the community talk about Emma as being your bodhisattva, your great support in this whole journey. That absolutely, I'm so glad it's being recognized as the great care that's being provided. But you talked about also one of the things that you're learning is this overwhelming love that people have for you, the support that you've received that you never really imagined, right?
Yeah.
People coming out of the woodwork will tell you how much
Well, it's much more of a community than I even thought it did. That was more ideal in a sense. And that's important. It's important to recognize that you have a community there. And I've always thought that it's important that the community be sustainable. Because can sustain its elders and stuff. And then, grove of elders. I had a book. I bought. He talks about stages of life, and the seventh one, before the final eighth one, is called In the Grove of Elders. And there was a grove of box elders there on the plot. And I was like, you can't make this stuff up. And then, when we were in Ecuador, I ended up in the village of shamans. I mean, it was a town that was known as the town of shamans in Ecuador. And that was completely happenstance. See, that's the thing about when you're traveling. When all your plans go awry, somebody's got a better plan. And it's you at a deeper level that has a better plan than what you thought of. So that's the other thing about dreams, is recognizing that there's things about you that you don't know yet that are much more important than, I think I'll do this. I think I'll buy this car. That kind of really superficial stuff. And that's why I like traveling, is it kind of teaches you that right off the bat. I was down in Colombia once. The town's not there, Popayan, the volcano. But Popayan, I was hitchhiking down through South America, Colombia, Argentina. This was in Colombia, and I met these people, and they said they'd give me a ride, just go to the Americana Hotel. So I sat at the doorstep of this Americana Hotel all night long, right? I was shivering in my poncho and stuff. They never showed up. Damn. So I finally got up, go get a cup of coffee down at Town Square. I'm walking down there, and there was Roger Rasnick from high school. I mean, he went like, but you can't plan, I'm going to run into Roger Rasmussen when I go there. No, you have to go through all that stuff, and then they show up. And that happens to me. Anyway, those things happen when you're on the road. Those little magical kind of, where did that come from? I don't know. Take advantage of it. He gave me a cup of coffee, too, because I didn't have enough.
That begs the question, man. I mean, and this is off the script, but what I hear is this real ability to be flexible. And I think that my own struggle, I think many of our struggles, is when things go awry, we feel out of control, or feel very disrupted, we might feel very anxious, and we get to the place that we are kind of backstepping, and we miss those eye-opening moments, right?
Yeah.
How have you cultivated that, which almost feels like freewheeling flexibility, to be okay with change?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know exactly how it's done, but it is, there is that mindfulness and that awareness kind of thing that people talk about in terms of the Buddhist kind of thing, that mindfulness, that mindful awareness and stuff, recognize and just being there in the present. And the road helps you do that, especially if it's a foreign language, because you've got to be really aware of all the nuances of where they're coming from without necessarily understanding a damn word they said, right? So you don't quite hear it, but you have to be very present in that moment with that person. I think that I've tried to cultivate and try to cultivate as well. I try to model that with students. I don't know how successful I am, because I always, man, if there's a pile of shit in the room, I will find it even if it's in the corner. That's my secret superpower. This is good. If you're a psychologist, you want to find the weak points, right? I don't find them. They just sort of appear to me and I go, oh, yeah, looks like that. Well, they may have some issue there or something.
Yeah, you've been able to navigate.
But I don't know how not to say it.
Well, that's always, we have growing edges, right?
Yeah, no, I've unintentionally insulted lots of people.
Well, you find out
Even
that
my friend, especially my friend.
there are students who are absolutely mind blown, lives change in your class, and then there are others who maybe are demand a very pointed, outlined lecture in one shot color. Sometimes they struggle a little bit in the Howie methods. But I wonder, as we kind of come to a close here for our time, the image that I've shared with you of, you're teaching a class and you have all this material that you want to share with students, but it's the last day of class and you look at the clock and you realize that you got 5 minutes left with these students, right? What would you share? Of course, that metaphor is about life, right? What would you share with us to say, you know what, if I'm going to rub shoulders with John Howie, he wants me to know this.
Follow your passion. Find your path with heart, I think is the way the First Nations people talk about it. But it's follow your passion is from Joseph Campbell. And one of the times that he got asked that, and it's also called follow your bliss and stuff like that. But somebody asked, well, how do I follow my bliss? How do I find my passion there? And Joseph Campbell says, well, what do you really like to do? And he said, well, I'm really sure. He said, well, figure it out, follow it, okay? And that's you. I like to read books, and I like to talk about books that I've read that I really like. That's what you get to do as a professor. That's cool. You force people to read the same book that you're reading, and then you get to talk about it. I mean, what else could you ask for as a teacher? And then the passion that you have for your own subject. I mean, if you're teaching, you should be teaching something that you like. I mean, you've seen everybody's seen those burnout teachers that you really, they should have left a long time ago. They really shouldn't be here anymore. But fortunately, I'm going to be dead before I get to do that.
I think you could live to be 300 and they would still be passionate there. I think that's been part of your special gift of just the energy, the life, and it's becoming replicated. All these students that you've encountered and other people that you've helped in some little way kind of connect to their own John Howie type energy, right?
No, it's their energy. It's reconnecting to who they are. And that psychology cheats like that, okay? Because we make them do all their dreams and their biography and where they come from. I can make them do their family genealogies in the first class. I mean, in the freshman class, general psych, so they find out about their own background. And that's part of the reason that I know something about the community here. It's just because I know the histories of these people, and I saw, look, if your grandfather got killed by your grandma with an axe, I'm not going to remember who did what to whom. I might remember, somebody killing somebody with an axe. That's pretty cool, but I'm not going to remember who it was. I have a good memory for forgetting, who that was or something. So, and psychology is easier because people have to bring up all their stuff. And they have this stereotype image of psychologists are always going to know what I'm talking about. It's going to know my unconscious stuff. And then they'll spill all their unconscious right out there in front of you. Be surprised that you know about it. Well, I didn't know shit about it until you told me. Then it became really obvious. So, but that's what I think the job of liberal arts college is to help people figure out what they want to do with the rest of their life, that they can be passionate about the rest of their life. And I think that's a possible task to do. And I don't think it's me so much as it just kind of happens, okay? Because I'm not trying to be falsely humble here, because I'm an arrogant asshole, but I just think that it doesn't have so much to do with me as a situation that you can get them into and it starts moving. And a class will do that as a whole. And you get really good classes. And then you get really not so good classes. And there's a boom bust cycle with that.
But, so I guess it really sounds like, to kind of wrap up what you're saying, I mean, it's just this idea of just letting things happen, paying attention, and then going to the path that we feel like we're really most passionate about, right? Authentically being yourself.
Yeah.
Is what I hear.
Yeah, and you kind of care about people because but that just goes without saying, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
That you actually have to care about which direction they go in and stuff. And the therapeutic value of nature and stuff. People who've known about their home place and stuff, they already have a sense of that. Everybody, I think, already has a sense of how nature can be healing. And especially in COVID and stuff, people say, oh yeah, well, I go out and walk in the woods and sit there. They continue to do that after the class because, oh, yeah, I feel better. And it's like it tends to bathe you and stuff like that. It's like you go down by the river and if you hear the river, the sound of the river, that sound will make you feel like you've been gone for weeks and just had an afternoon by the river. The sound of flowing water just really, it purges your ears of the dross that you get into. And I think nature does that. And it's really an advantage to have the natural wonders and stuff that you have around here. And almost dying on the river helps too.
Well, I know that many of you probably have other questions or things you want to share with John. I know we're at our time now, but I just want to thank you. Thanks for sitting in our conversation. And a lifetime can't be summarized in 40 minutes or so of a conversation, but a little bit. You get a little bit of John's flair and passion, and we're really thankful that today's a good day that you're able to be with us and share with us. And there are no words to express our deepest gratitude. Not for 30 years of teaching. A lot of people have done that. But for you being you. Because I think that is the thing that has really helped so many other people, is someone who's authentically, whether on purpose or not, authentically being themselves, wearing a poncho, riding a bike, riding a horse to school, whatever it is that you're authentically doing, that there's something that connects with other people who long to be authentic. And that's been a real gift. So thank you so much for you being John Howey.
Well, thank you, Rob. And thank you guys. Yeah, I'm glad to see you guys are still here.
Just taking care of the ducks.
He's taking care of the ducks. He's trying to take care of the ducks.
You're still taking care of the ducks?
Yeah. I got my chickens down there. My wife's about to kill me because the one of them keeps crowing. Man, Danny Cox, I mean, they will not shut up.
Well, let's give Dr. John Howey a round of applause.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. What you got there?
I'm okay.
Ah.